Okay, good evening. My name is Larry Whited, as you all know, AB4NX, and I wear several hats, but the most important one right now is AEC for training. And I've developed some important concepts, I believe. I was a safety officer for Georgia ARES because I brought the topic up, and our previous SEC was very interested in making sure that we did practice safety. So this presentation is designed to make people feel the reason for safety, not just know about it, but actually feel it. And so what I'm start out with is the reason why safety is important to us. And of course, it starts very early in our lives when our parents teach us to look both ways before we will cross the road and stuff like that. But all of this is based on the implicit value of human life, that reciprocity principle that humans share with each other of value. And it is a core human value. So it's also based on stewardship. Conservation of resources, human and otherwise. And safety, as we practice it in this industry and also in the emergency preparedness role, is based on science and best practice. It's based on practices that minimize risk and conserve resources. So essentially, we're here to do good and to save lives. So it's a goodwill at the core idea. And the first step in doing good is to do no harm. That's something that was coined way back in the early days of medicine. When you do something, try not to do more harm than you did good. And there are so many ways to go wrong when you're trying to do good. Just ask me how I know, being a nurse of 30 years in the ICU, where most of what you do is support healing. And many things that you might think you are doing that might be helpful will be anything but. So the practice of safety, I say, is a manifestation of core values within our structure of understanding of the value of human life. So, and as I mentioned early on, parents teach safety to their children. And if you stop and think about it, new workers on a new job are trained at specific safety practices that relate to the dangers of that specific job. And that's always very, very important. Now, volunteers, on the other hand, face even more unknowns than you would on a new job, because you're coming into an environment that you haven't seen before, and it has inherent risks because it's usually involved with a loss of function, a loss of utilities, or other support systems. So the admonition should be to build a culture of safety, and that's why we call it life safety. So in the Coast Guard Auxiliary, which I have joined within the last few months, like I didn't need another job, but we have this concept called team coordination and risk management. And the concept is very core to Coast Guard maneuvers, and it really applies very well to what we do. It emphasizes leadership and a team approach to safety. It recognizes the synergies of a well-directed team, empowers team members to contribute to team safety. It focuses on risk management as a part of the planning process. It includes flexibility to change plans, to pull a plug on plans with the changing of the risk profile. Categories of risk management in a new environment we need to go over. And one of the very first is the personal health risks, especially with older people like are often involved in ham radio and in volunteers. They come with a whole set of risks built in. And so in order to be a help, we need to be very, very careful that we don't become part of the problem. Other things to look at is the environment. There's so much in the environment that can become a huge safety risk for us. For instance, temporary structures, flammable hazards, gas for generators and motors, and hazmat hazards, and the malign actors that may be present after a disaster or any type of loss of normal function. The personal health risks that we should go through, we see this at field day. Dehydration is very key, and dehydration occurs well before you even feel thirst. So you have to prehydrate to make sure that you're safely out of the danger of dehydration. Heat prostration is something we learn about in the Coast Guard Auxiliary as well. And then there's the cold side. When your body temperature drops, you can be at risk. A lot of us have various stages of diabetes at this age in our life, and that needs to be addressed early on and be kept in mind. And we need to care for each other and make sure that that we're all okay. You know, there's the cuts and bruises and broken bones, head injuries. These are things that can happen, and surprisingly easily. And I probably should have put this first, but before you ever go on a deployment, having the proper self-care equipment along with you, first aid supplies, and all the stuff like clothing, medications, and water and food, first aid supplies really need to be part of the kit that you take with you for safety. And so pre-planning is very important. As far as the environment is concerned, the weather is a key element in safety. Things change rapidly out there, and so we're often absorbed with the concerns about the what's going on and how we perform our job, and it's very easily to let the weather slip up on us. I was up at Cloudland Canyon with a OXCOM deployment drill a couple of years ago, and we saw weather coming, and before I knew it, I had dropped my my easy up down as low as it could go. It had weights on it, and that wind hit us so hard it tore the thing apart while I held on to it. So stuff like that can happen extremely fast. Down power lines can be hidden amongst the wreckage and other broken infrastructure items. Traffic, roads, trails. Here's one. We go to the death race in its way outside of every kind of support you can imagine. If you look up in the trees, there are often dead limbs hanging up there just ready to fall, and they can kill you so easily. So you really need to think about stuff that's above you as well as what's around you. So look up and down and all around. You can trip, you can be hit in the head, and I have run into more things looking down and with my head. So that kind of stuff can surprise you as well. And of course, unstable structures are very important to be concerned about, because you could be deployed around after a destructive event like a weather event or whatever. So antenna structures, we put up these portable antennas, and there's so many ways to go wrong. Don Coltrane, my good friend up, who was the MAT team leader, and Frank Dean were putting up antennas, a tripod, and they got it up high enough, and it broke loose, got away from them, and hit Don in the head and gashed him, and he got blood all over the place. And guess what he should have been wearing? Yes, you need to wear a hard hat when you're working with anything over your head. It really is imperative. Ladders are dangerous, falling objects are dangerous, and tripping hazards need to be well marked and out of the way of traffic. So, flammable hazards, we all know about filling generators. It's not a good idea to pour gas on a hot device, right? Gas lines, explosives in the area, or possibilities in a hazardous area. Running motors near dry grass and natural debris, that can even be your car parked over them. That can start a fire and burn your car up. Now, sometimes we get to support a hazmat event, and we have to work with frontline workers and provide communications between a hazmat situation and maybe the main the control area. And we need to follow directions and not get into danger. Let them be the ones ahead. They know what they're doing. So next, malign actors. There are always those around when there's a disaster. You have to be careful about that kind of stuff. Keep your eyes open, and if you see something suspicious, report it. Usually have plenty of police or whatever, and those kind of things need to be reported so that you remain safe. So one of the things we decided early on is that at every deployment, a safety officer should be deployed, always. That should be chosen early on as part of the first thing you do when you come up to a site is you size it up for its safety and you pick a safety officer, and everyone in the group should take a turn at that role. What we use for that is the ARRL checklist for field day. It works very well. It covers a lot of the stuff that we're concerned about. And one of the most important concepts is if you don't get in the habit of safety at home, the chances of you practicing that muscle memory in the field very poor. You're going to be so taken up with the concerns about the job that you're going to miss stuff. So you need to start practicing that at home and in everything you do. Build that muscle memory, build those good habits. Don't cut the corners that you normally do. Get in the habit of doing it right, being safe. Part of being safe is documentation. And for every deployment, there should be an ICS 214. That's an IMS form that covers your activities. It documents what you did and how you responded, and it can actually save you from lawsuit problems and all sorts of stuff. And also it forms the basis of an after action observations that can go into doing a better job the next time around. It's well documented. So key safety checkpoints, document safety on ICS 214. It is a safety device for yourself. And resources need to be properly stowed and accounted for at the end of a deployment. Fire extinguishers need to be deployed early on. If any generators are involved, have them handy. Make sure they're not expired, make sure they're fully charged. Make sure you have a first aid kit. You should have one in your vehicle. Take it with you everywhere you go and be safe. And then if you have to help out with something, you got it there. Take it. Hard hat is probably one of the more important things because so much of what we do is overhead. Safety glasses, and I always take a mask too in case I have to deal with something that's medical related that I need the protection. And take the tape and the flags to make sure that you make the area safe. And this talk, of course, was designed for Georgia ARES, so we definitely do not plan to hold any event that is not deemed safe. So, and I think we should adopt that locally as well, that we put that high on the priority list so that we can free our minds from the concerns about our environment to do the work that we're there for. So if we get in the habit of thinking safety, it'll come natural and it'll be a lot easier to do the rest of what's important to us. So don't forget to stay hydrated. Water is very important. You don't want to fall out or be impaired because of it. Always have a 72-hour personal kit ready to go. If you want to be a deployable person, have it ready to go so you don't have to fumble around and find it. And also have a paper go kit as well, where you can document and do all the documentation that's needed. Know where you are so rescue personnel can find you if something goes wrong. You should know the cross street where you are, and you should also know your location on a GPS, and almost every cell phone has a way for you to find. If nothing else, the compass will do that. Will give you, and there's plenty of apps that will handle that too. If you're medically inclined, it's a good idea to fill out an ICS 206 form if you're going to be deployed, and that is a list of all the resources that you might need in case you had to call for them. Watch for early signs and symptoms of distress in your team members. So why does safety matter? Why does it matter whether we practice safety or not? We matter. Practice safety at home. It's a learned skill and it will help you be ready to serve. They matter. We watch out and care for each other, care for the caregivers. To do good, you must first make every effort to do no harm. Resources, human and otherwise, are in short supply during a disaster. Conserve them. You can't help others if you're injured yourself and you're taken out of the game. In an emergency, you do what you practice. A safe practice attitude is contagious. Be a safety ambassador. Practice life safety. That's the end of my presentation.
Yeah, can I ask a question?
Yes, sir. Please do.
All right, sorry. Yeah, I have my hand raised for the last couple minutes.
I'm sorry.
This is actually for more for Mark. The ICS was it the 314? Is that
14.
also for use at the hospital?
The ICS 214, yes.
214,
And
okay.
in the binder there at the hospital, the red one, there's blank 214s. And if we run out, there's the printer and the PC has the forms on in a folder on it. So the answer is yes. If you're deployed at a hospital, or in a few moments, we're going to talk about GNR, you use the ICS forms that the organization is expecting to use. 309s and 214s are among those. So,
Thank you.